So, if you're watching this, you probably own an old vehicle, and maybe you love it or maybe you hate it. Maybe it's a love-hate relationship. It often is, which has a direct correlation between the money you spend and the pleasure you get out of it. But there's a growing consensus around the Western democracies within the population that the government is going to clamp down at some point in the future on your old vehicle, and because it's a carbon spewing monstrosity that deserves to be in the scrap metal heap rather than on the road. And I can assure you that probably isn't going to happen. But what could happen long before then is probably the ethanol is going to kill your old vehicle. My old dinosaur bikes suffer miserably from the ethanol, and so I thought I'd do a quick video on it today. And plus, on top of the ethanol, I mean, if you live in a northern climate where they put a lot of salt on the roads, the slushy, salt, briny mix, yeah, man, the rest is probably going to spell the end to your beloved old truck long before the government dictate rules that thing off the road. So anyways, just a quick video about that. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you find it useful. There's probably a fair amount of information out there about the effects of ethanol in your gasoline. It's pretty horrible stuff. It one of the things that detriments to especially older vehicles is that it attracts water, and the water wreaks havoc on fuel systems, and the stuff they put in the fuel to compensate for the low volatility of ethanol as well, it's pretty harsh on things, especially older vintage machines, old antique cars and motorcycles. All the seals and O-rings and the aluminum too, they're just really not they're not very receptive, let's say, to the ravages of ethanol. The reason they do it, I don't know if maybe you don't know, is that the corn industry is heavily subsidized in the U.S. and we're up in Canada. Although we're up in Canada, the corn industry is heavily subsidized in the States, and so there's a lot of incentives to grow corn, and they make ethanol from the corn and add it to the fuel. And so that's why you see 10% ethanol in things, 10, 15, some are higher, I think. Newer vehicles, fuel injector formulated to run on it properly, but old bikes not so much. You can see, like, there's, for instance, a fuel trap on this thing, and when you open it up, try to do this with one hand, spew a little bit of gas. Put on some gloves too, like this stuff's horrible. It really wrecks the seals, but more importantly, it eats the aluminum. And when you have an old bike like this, and get in the light here, you can see how it's eating the aluminum. See all the pockets there? Well, that's aluminum that's missing from being eroded by the modern fuels. And so when I just replaced, say, the petcock on both of these are both 76s, and I replaced the seals, for example, on the tank. You can still get them, amazingly enough, and I put a nice brand new seal on that. You can still get the seals, surprisingly. I'm not sure why, what business sense that makes. Probably use it in other things, I guess. And but you see the old one here is just suffering miserably. It's all cracked, and you know, you could smell it. Look at how cracked it is. It's just nothing left of it. And same with the petcock rubber. You know, you start looking at it, it gets cracked. I mean, these things age as well, of course, but I mean, more worrying is that as it eats the aluminum, and a lot of times you'll have a rich running condition on one of these motorcycles and nobody can figure it out. And what's happened is that there's little pinholes that are joining the circuits just incrementally. They're actually joined together through the decay of the aluminum, and it's sucking in fuel from another circuit. And so no matter how much you set up the floats and
how much you dick with it, it'll just never run right, because there's holes where they ought to be, and it's not necessarily big gaping holes, but it's enough to upset the stoichiometric ratio, the air fuel ratio of these motorcycles. So a lot of carburetors go to their grave because of the ethanol, and too, the gas, it goes bad so quick. And if you ever meet somebody and they got a landscaping company and they got 50 chainsaws and whippersnippers and whatever you got, man, you just leave them like a month and 2 months, and then they're just almost impossible to start. So if you got an old bike, drain the carburetors, man, if you're not using it over the winter, especially up here in the northern climates. There's little drains, for instance, on these ones. There's a nut under here you can unscrew, and you just drain the bowls, drain the fuel trap. And then as far as the tank, it's made of steel, so it's okay. You can just fill it up right to the top, so there's less of an air pocket, and then less condensation, and then therefore less rust, because there's so much water in the fuel now. I've even heard some unscrupulous gas stations they'll pour water into the tanks to fatten up the profit a little bit, pad the margins. And I guess the vehicles, I guess, sometimes, you'll meet somebody and they'll pull the car into a gas station, and, a mile down the road it quits, and a lot of people think, it's an old car, and, take it in the mechanic and get it sorted out. There was a story, I remember, there was a 4 guys on cruisers out in British Columbia in the cusp, and they all filled up at the same station, and all the bikes quit the same distance later. So hardly coincidence. So the really bad fuel though these days, especially with the old motorcycles. So anyways, I hope that helps. Some people out there give you some insight as to what's killing your old bike besides the knockoff Chinese parts and counterfeit NGK plugs that the porcelain falls into your cylinder, and high insurance rates and crazy drivers on the road. So, as if that wasn't all enough, drink your carburetors, and I'll make more videos. Hope to see you again. Take care. Bye.